Well, hey, everybody. Let's record episode 136 of Mike in the Midwest. Let's do it. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 136 of Mike in the Midwest, a mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, February 22nd, 2023. And I am your host, Mike Rallman from BeOurGuestPodcast.com. You can catch me on the social media at Be Our Guest Mike, usually on Twitter or Instagram. Best places to find me. So do that this week. I would love to connect with you. And of course, I'm headed to Walt Disney World here in less than 48 hours. So follow me for some great coverage because I'm heading down for the Princess Half Marathon weekend. But hey, how are you doing? Hopefully, you had President's Day off yesterday and had a 3-day weekend. Of course, I work here kind of independently and work with the Magic for Less travel. So we do not take days off, but we make our hours. So yeah, we didn't get that day off, but I enjoy what I do. So I guess that's a good trade off there. But hopefully you had the day off. And if you're headed down to Princess, it'll be good to see. I know Jody is one of our folks that'll be heading down. So it'll be good to see her down there at Princess, heading down from Cincinnati. Just hope you're doing well. Those folks that are up in the north, I see that you guys have one heck of a winter storm headed your way up in Minnesota and Wisconsin and the Dakotas. I know Trisha's up that way. So I guess have the snow shovels ready. Right now it's about, I think it said 55 on the moving screen over my shoulder here in the studios, but it was 66 here yesterday. So it is kind of spring-like here in St. Louis the past week. And I know I've been looking at the forecast and they're saying it's going to break records over the weekend in Florida in the 90s already. So it's going to be a hot run. Not necessarily a good thing. I don't like heat with running, but we'll make the best of it. At least we'll be out of there before the sun comes up for the most part. So, you know, while you're back home digging out of the snow, you will have no sympathy for Mike down there if it's 90 degrees. I get it. I'd be the same way. Totally understand. So yeah, please do follow me this weekend. I'm excited. We the plans are just so you know. So if you want to follow and kind of know the timeline of what's going on for my trip coming up, I'm flying out on Southwest Airlines on Thursday morning. My flight leaves at 5:20 a.m. That's the time as of right now. And so we'll be leaving Lambert Airport, landing at about 8:50, I think, 8:30, 8:50, something like that, down in Orlando. Probably just take an Uber. I'm staying over at Coronado Springs this time. Those are where I got my best rate for this stay. And yeah, I'm excited to take some pictures over there. And, I love that resort. It's got great dining. It's just got great location. The rooms are awesome. Not doing the tower this time, just a standard room, trying to save some money. And again, not requesting any certain areas. So we'll see where I get. Do I get the cabanas? Do I get the ranchos? Do I get casitas? What do I get? We'll see. Place your bets now. But just it doesn't matter. I'm just there for a race weekend. But yeah, so we'll be doing that. I couldn't remember if I signed up for the 5K or not, honestly, because I signed up for this so long ago. So I'm going down on Thursday, but I'm not running the 5K. So I'll probably run at the resort on Friday morning. Thursday, when I get there, Scott gets there at the same time. Thursday, we'll go to the expo, get our bibs, do our shopping, that kind of stuff. I don't know what's on the plan for Thursday. I haven't even looked. Friday, though, I'll probably get up, run at the resort, go to the parks, have some fun with Scotty G. And if I see any of the lizards, we'll have some fun on Friday. I know Scott is running the 5K with his daughter, with Emily. So look for Scott out there. And Saturday and Sunday, I'm doing the challenge. So I'll be out there for the 10K and the half. So look for me out there. So that's kind of the plan. I'm flying back on Sunday night so I could be back in the studios on Monday to do the podcast for the week so that we don't get behind and it makes life way easier if I'm home on a Monday. So we'll see how that works. So I'll be on Sunday, I'll run the half marathon, hustle back to almost said Pop Century, Coronado, check out of my room, drop my luggage, probably go to the parks real quick for a few hours, and then take an Uber over to Coronado again, or ride a bus back to Coronado, grab my luggage, and then right back over to MCO and head home. My flight leaves at 7. So that'll be interesting, and get back at 8:30. So there you go. That is the plan. We'll see how well it holds out. 135 days to the podcast cruise as of right now. I see that on the moving message board right over my shoulder. Awesome. Welcome to Jared. The Bears are sailing with us. We booked another group for our podcast cruise just today. That is awesome. Ring the bell for another person on the podcast cruise. All right. So that's kind of what's going on around here. This week we have 2 great shows. Listener questions coming your way tomorrow. And on Friday's podcast, I came up with something because I wanted to talk about some new stuff that's coming to us as Disney fans. Some of these new experiences, some of them are really soon, like Tron is going to be here in April. Um, we just found out yesterday that out at Disneyland at California Adventure that we're going to get that San Francisco kind of redo of Pacific Wharf in that park over there opening this summer. That was like super quick. What a turnaround for that. So I want to talk about some of these redos, and I asked Pam and Ricky how excited they were 0 to 10 for these 5 things. We did the San Francisco, I can't say that, redo of Pacific Wharf. We talked about Moana Journey of Water coming to Epcot. The Tiana redo, I almost said Tiana Journey of Water. What is it? Tiana, I can't remember what it's called, but the Splash Mountain redo. How excited they were for that. The Disney Treasure, the new, the next cruise ship, and Lighthouse Point, the new private island for Disney Cruise Line. How excited they were on a scale of 0 to 10 for that. And of course, Tron. So basically, we just had discussions about these new experiences that we're going to get to have as Disney fans and where they kind of rate on a scale of 0 to 10. But the reason we did the 0 to 10 scale is so you can see like what excites us the most. Spoiler alert, for me and Pam, it was the Treasure and Lighthouse Point. It was Disney Cruise Line. But you'll see one that I was more excited about one that the other two weren't. My second place was a lot higher than the other one. So I'm kind of, if you had those 5 experiences, what are you most excited for? So play along with us on Friday and let me know what you think of the show. Also, please, since you guys are kind of the experts of the show and you guys are kind of the main supporters of the podcast, I think that with the new mixer and things like that, I think that we've improved the sound quality just a little bit more. I'm hoping. So if anything sounds better or worse audio wise, let me know, because again, I did buy a new mixer because I am always striving to give you the best audio quality possible. I want to always have the best sounding Disney podcast out there. And maybe not the best, but at least as good as the others. And just let me know what you're thinking, because I tore everything out of the studio and did everything. We went from 2 mixers, a digital and an analog mixer that we used for, 14 years. We're strictly digital at this point with new software, new digital hardware. And I think it sounds cleaner. I think it sounds better, but you can let me know. So let me know about that. All right. So let's hit the feedback from last week's show. In the feedback, I'll be honest, shocked me. I'll be honest. I love doing Mike in the Midwest for the feedback. And when you guys leave feedback, it makes my day, because I love that this show, it's called Mike in the Midwest, right? It's about my exploits here in Missouri, growing up in North County, North St. Louis County. But it's funny because people that grew up in different places had such similar experiences. A lot of us are kind of the same age. Some of us aren't, but many of us are the same age closely. But I'm shocked because I didn't think we'd have these experiences. I thought this was a weird Midwestern thing in a little school, because like it was run by a Nazarene church. I thought this was just like a weird kind of cult thing, this balloon day thing, where we went out to a field, we all bought balloons. The weather guy came out and talked to us about the jet stream, where our balloons might go. And we all, woo, 3, 2, 1, we let our balloons go. The postcards flew away. And then we waited weeks and they'd trickle in, and the teacher would be like, we got a postcard today. And she'd bring it in, and everybody be excited. Who is it for? Whose card is it? And she'd say, oh, it is Jennifer's card. And I'm like, oh dang, it's not mine. Well, where did it come from? And then we'd have to look on a map, and we'd, hear the story. Did they send us pictures? Did they send a letter? Did they tell us about, did it land on a cow? Did it land on a car? Did it land on a house? I mean, that was like a red letter day when we got a postcard back. It was awesome. Like you would hear the class across the hall, they got their postcard. They got a postcard today. And it was like big news. I mean, again, small school. So anyway, let's hit the feedback from last week's show about Balloon Day and Pet and Hobby Day at North County Christian. Jody, just speaking of Jody out in Cincinnati, she says, the balloon launch. Yes, this must have been a big thing in the mid 80s. You and I are about the same age. We did this too, and my balloon landed at a high school 2 states away. The principal and a bunch of students wrote me notes and sent me their yearbook. I thought it was the coolest. So see, look, I no kidding. I thought I was the only one that did this. Wait till you hear it. Like, so Jody did it. I'm assuming she grew up in Cincinnati or Ohio. That's where she is now. But 2 states away. So, what state? I mean, where do you remember exactly where it landed? That's cool that they wrote you a letter and sent you a yearbook. How awesome is that? All right, Len, my good friend out in Maryland, and Sparty for Len. And we talked about this, Scott and I, on the Sunday night show, thinking of everybody at Michigan State with the horrific event that happened there over the past week. Our hearts are with everybody up in Lansing. And I was really worried for Scott and his family because he lives right by campus. Len says, I definitely remember doing balloon launches while in school. It was way too long ago to remember where our balloons landed. Wanted to let you know, Mike, that Jen and I have decided to take a trip to Disneyland in June of 24 to celebrate our 40th anniversary and my transition to semi-retirement. We both have been inside Disneyland before during business trips, but have no memories of the visit. It'll be virtually our first time. Len, you're going to love it. And first of all, congratulations on 40 years. That is amazing. That is beautiful. That's a love story right there. But I mean, I just remember when I was out there in July with Pam. I mean, we were there with Scott's family and, and Mallory's with us too. But there was something so romantic about just being at Disneyland at night. There's a picture of Pam and I that it's my wallpaper for my iPad. And it's Pam and I in our own teacup at night. And I don't even ride the teacups usually, but we rode the teacups at night. And we're wearing our matching Mickey. I'll have to post this picture. We're wearing our matching Mickey sweatshirts because it was kind of cool that night, like white Mickey sweatshirts. And you can see the lights behind us. And it was just the most romantic thing. There's something romantic about Disneyland, especially at night, Len. So it's perfect for the 40th anniversary. Oh my gosh, you're going to have such a good time. I love it. All right, John Luther, check this out. This correct amazes me. John says, we had the balloon launch day too in Eastern Massachusetts. It was always a fun day, though. It was always a fun day, though I was disappointed that I never got a postcard back. In hindsight, it's somewhat horrifying at how many of our school's balloons likely ended up in the Atlantic Ocean. I was thinking the same thing. If you're in Massachusetts and the jet stream moves west to east, it makes sense that John probably didn't get back to me postcards. I doubt many people got back postcards at all in his school. I wouldn't think, unless maybe he got it back from Portugal or England. I don't know. I don't know how that works. Like, do they go across the ocean that far? I don't know. That's I mean, mine got down it made it all the way to North Carolina. If it would have gone a little further, it'd have been in the ocean. That's super interesting. Thanks, John. Appreciate it very much. All right, next we have, let's see here, Nicole Rice. Nicole, thanks for being a patron. I appreciate it. She says, we also do balloon launches at my public school in Illinois, but I never got my letters returned. I'm so jealous. I think they banned it when they learned turtles were eating the balloons, mistaking them for fish and dying. My kids will never know the joys of a balloon release, but I am sure the turtles are thankful. Have a great week, and thanks for bringing the memories flooding back. Thanks, Nicole. That's right. It's probably not a good thing. But either was riding in the back of my grandpa's F-150, and it was awesome back in the day. I mean, we all the cousins, we'd ride all the way to Six Flags, 45 minutes away, down Interstate 44 in the back of a green F-150 pickup. And those are some of my best memories. Was it the best thing to do? Absolutely not. It's a miracle I'm alive. But we made it, and it made a good memory, kind of like balloon launch day. But you're right. Kids will probably never do this. But here's the thing. Okay, let me just say this, though. I thought about this the other day. And this is, so we had I live in St. Louis, and in the city, there's murders happen pretty often. I hate to say it, but if you watch the news, our downtown area is one of the most high crime areas in the country. And a kid was tragically killed, and they had a vigil for this teenager that was killed. And at the end of the vigil, they had a balloon release. Like, they had like blue balloons, because that was like his high school football team's colors. And it was like they released like probably 300 blue balloons at the end of the vigil. And I'm thinking, that's the same thing like we did. They're helium balloons. So I guess people still do it. I guess people just don't do it at school with the postcards. But it's still, in the end, you still end up with balloons that come down somewhere, and they're not environmentally friendly. I don't know. We'll see. Trisha, speaking of Trisha up in Wisconsin, Trisha Snow Shovel Hellwig, hope you're doing well. She says, it's because of you, Mike, that my family watched Good Luck Charlie. You really talked it up, so we had to watch it. It did not disappoint. Okay. Scott and I love the dad on Good Luck Charlie. He's the man. Like, he is so funny. Bob the Exterminator. And the thing is, if you watch the series long enough, and I've seen every episode 1,000 times because Mallory just played it over and over and over on Disney Plus and back in the day before Disney Plus on the Disney Channel when it was on. Um, Bob went through like 2 incarnations. There was Big Bob, and then Bob got ripped. He lost a bunch of weight and just got just like the Hulk. He got muscular. I don't know what happened. Maybe he had like a health scare or something and he got really fit. But there's like 2 Bobs. But yeah, that show is hilarious. I just love all the actors. Like the kids are funny, the parents are funny, just the situations. Great show. Anyway, Trisha says, we didn't have any special show and tell events at school when I was a kid, but my daughter had student of the week. Every week, one student is highlighted and each day is themed. It's a cute idea, but it turns into homework for mom. Okay, let me just tell you confessions of a 6th grade teacher. Every Friday, our school had something when I taught. We had something called Friday's Finest. And every teacher had to submit a kid in their class to be Friday's finest. And so the principal would read we had what was called Wedgwood TV. It was like a closed circuit TV show. She'd read all the kids' names that got Friday's finest. And it was like a big deal for the kids, right? But in 6th grade, the kids have been in our school for 7 years. This is their 7th year, except kindergarten through 6th. And Pam and I, all the 6th grade teachers, we'd always forget to do Friday's Finest and send it down because you had to send it down by like 9:00. And we'd be panicked. We'd be like, oh my God. Like we'd always text each other. Back then we didn't have cell phones hardly. We just somebody would we had phones. We'd call each other. Did you do Friday's Finest? I'm like, oh dude, I didn't. So you just panic. You'd look around your room like what kid did something this week that I can recognize for Friday's Finest, and you write it down because you had to put a reason on. We had these certificates you'd fill out, and then you have to send it to the office and put it in this Friday's Finest folder, and the principal would read out of the folder. But I just remember that gave me cold chills right there, thinking about, oh my gosh, it's it was like 8:58. The show starts at 9. Who's going to be Friday's Finest, and what's the reason? But yeah, that was every Friday for me. Every once in a while, though, I had one that was predetermined, but not often. And finally, Michelle Camber down in South Florida, she says, we didn't do a balloon launch, but along the same concept, we had a message in a bottle drop in the ocean. Okay. I would love to have had that if I lived by the ocean. How awesome is that? I don't remember ever getting anything back, though. That would have been cool. Love the story about your ancestors in the old photos. I have a picture on my shelf of my grandparents, Ed and Ruth, on their wedding day in 1949. They were married 72 years before my grandpa passed. Wow. How amazing. A love story. 72 years. They were born to be together when it's 72 years. That is incredible. Also, my grandma's name was Ruth. I love that. I also have a picture that I treasure of my grandma, Henrietta, from when she was a small child and just came to the USA through Ellis Island from the Netherlands. I love that stuff because that is living history. And that is exactly why you are where you are. That's how you got there. That's so cool. Michelle continues. Maybe I'll run into you this week at Walt Disney World. Sam and I are staying at Coronado Tuesday through Friday. It's her first trip in 2 years and my first time back since the 50th. So to say we are excited is an understatement. Yes, Michelle, I'll be at Coronado Thursday to Sunday. So if you see me, please do say hello. That would be awesome. I'd love to see you guys. Okay, so today's topic, it's going to be a quick one. I'm fighting a migraine. That's why my voice sounds weird. I had to take my migraine medicine and I'm trying to hang in there. I got to take Mallory to the dentist here in a few minutes. But here's my story for you guys this week that I want to get feedback on. I was reading a blog article the other day about strange jobs that everybody's mom had as a kid to bring in extra income for the family to, go on vacations or, for your kids to play sports or, what have you, extra income for your family to do extra things. And it was things like, cause again, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. So it's things like Tupperware parties, babysitting, stuff like that. And in my family, my mom worked as a, like a medical, she worked in a doctor's office and she was in charge of all the insurance stuff. So she wasn't a nurse, but she was in the doctor's office. And so like when you signed in, she did all the record keeping and like an OBGYN, like a baby doctor. So she was always there, and she still works there, I think. And so, she did all that, and that's what she did. So she never had like a second job. Now, my dad was a cement mason until I was about halfway through high school. But I want to talk about some of my dad's side jobs that he had when he was still a cement mason. When he did, he poured concrete. So he put in basements and front porches and patios and driveways and stuff like that. He put in concrete. So did my grandpa. They did that kind of work. My dad transitioned to radio again about halfway through high school. He went to a place called Broadcast Center. He went there in the evenings, and then he transitioned into radio. But back then he worked in concrete during the day, but he had a bunch of other jobs. So my dad is a very talented drummer. He's a super talented drummer. He still drums to this day at church every Sunday when he's not working for the Rams. He obviously doesn't do that when he's out of town for football, but when he's in town, he's the drummer at his church. So he still plays now. My dad is 69. But he played in a band ever since I was a little. He played in a band when he was like in middle school, so back in the 60s. But when I was a kid, I remember he played in a band called the Rick Albright Band. This is the band he was in for years and years. And they played in a steakhouse called Meadow Park Steakhouse, which was in Florissant. It was about 5 minutes from our house. And they played every Friday and Saturday night. They played 7 to 11. And I just remember, like, it just seems so normal that my dad every Friday and Saturday night would be playing a gig. Like, I just thought, because he did it like my whole childhood, I just thought everybody's parent, on Friday and Saturday night just went to the steakhouse and played their instrument and, came home at midnight. I just thought that was so normal, and it wasn't. And sometimes we'd go up and see my dad's band play. That's kind of a big deal. I remember, it was a steakhouse, but it wasn't fancy because it was in a strip mall. Actually, it was 2 doors down from where Las Fuentes was. You guys have heard me talk about Las Fuentes for years, my favorite Mexican restaurant where we used to live. Well, they weren't there at the same time, but Las Fuentes was two slots down in the strip mall from where Meadow Park Steakhouse was back in the day. It turned into a Dollar General after it went out of business. So we used to go up there sometimes and watch my dad. My mom would take us, my sister and I, and we'd watch him play and, all that. But we didn't get steaks. We got toasted ravioli. That's what we get to eat. And then sometimes we get to get up on stage and sing. Now, the song I would sing with the band, they'd put me up there and I get to sing. My sister would too. We would sing. I was probably like 7 or 8. I had 2 songs that I would sing. I would sing Elvira by the Oak Ridge Boys. Elvira, do-do-do-do. My heart's on fire for Elvira. Remember, this was the 80s, and it was a country band, kind of a country band, like country AC. And the other song that I sang was The Gambler by Kenny Rogers. So I would get up there. Of course, they would sing with me. But I mean, it was like all old people. It's a steakhouse on a Friday night, right? But I just remember that. It was so fun. So my dad was a drummer in a band. And before that, he was in like a kind of more of like a disco band called the Debbie Branson Band. But he was more in this other band, this country band. So that was one of the jobs my dad had. Another job my dad had is that he and his best friend's name was Darwin from high school, and he was a bass player. So they weren't in this same band together, but my dad and Darwin played in bands together, but he wasn't, again, this band, they weren't in the same band, but they started a company together and it was called Nail Road Cases. Okay. So they were both musicians, Darwin, a bass player, my dad, a drummer. And what they found out was that musicians needed road cases for when they went on the road to put their instruments in. And so my dad so is my grandpa. They're very good with tools, very good with building things. So in our garage, now we didn't have a big garage. We're not talking a 2-car garage at my house growing up. We had a small starter home. It was less than 1,000 square feet with a 1-car attached garage. But my dad, I just remember he got a drill press, he got a few, other tools in there. And like him and Darwin would build these custom road cases for folks that wanted to, that had bands and equipment, and they would put them together. So they'd basically be like boxes with like foam on the ends, custom foam on the inside. And they would, whatever color they wanted on the outside. They had this, I don't even know what it was, kind of like Formica or something on the outside. I don't even know what it was. But I mean, these things look sharp. And they built those for a few years. They had nail road cases. I just remember every year my dad and Darwin would go all the way to Los Angeles to this big thing. It was called the NAMM show. And from what I know, I think it still goes on to this day, NAMM. And I think it's like a musician's kind of trade show out in Los Angeles. My dad actually got stuck out there during the blizzard of 83 in St. Louis because it happened during this big snow in St. Louis. But that's one of the odd jobs my dad had was building these road cases and with nail road cases with his best friend Darwin, which was kind of cool. Finally, so my dad was in these, in these bands and he built these road cases. And I don't know, he kind of switched bands, like as the leader of the Rick Albright band that played at Meadow Park, like he was older, and I think they finally, like, either the steakhouse was going out of business or the lead singer, he was an older guy, and so was the keyboard player, his wife. Maybe the band was just like, we're done. My dad switched to a different band, and eventually he decided, this was kind of like when DJs were becoming a thing for like wedding receptions and events. It was kind of going from like the 80s to where live bands were being replaced by DJs. And my dad got a job with a company, the biggest DJ company in St. Louis. It was called Complete Music. And this was an outfit out of Nebraska where you could buy franchises. So there was a franchise in St. Louis. My dad worked for them and they had 25 different DJ systems. So they would send out DJs. They could go out to 25 different locations on any given day. And so my dad got trained and he learned the ropes. And this was back where all the music was on cassette. And so he learned the ropes of the DJ business. And eventually, though, he decided he wanted to start his own company. So he left Complete Music and started Celebrate DJ, which was his DJ company. And he got it to be pretty big over the years. I think we at one point had about 10 different systems. So we could send people out to 10 events per evening, usually Saturday nights. So we could do, big proms. We could do mostly we did wedding receptions. We could do graduation parties, bar mitzvahs, whatever. We did all kinds of events, retirement parties. But that was my gig too. That's what I did all through high school and all through college. And the thing is that I made more working one night a week than my friends made working all week at their burger flipping jobs. Because my dad would pay me $200 for a Saturday night to DJ because it was a job nobody else, you couldn't just walk in and DJ. You had to know what to play. You had to know how to set up the equipment. You had to know how to interact with the bride, which was hard, but you had to just know how to do it. And it was something you had to be really trained to do. But it was, I remember my dad said, when you're in a band, you have to split the money 5 or 6 or 7 ways. But if you're the DJ, you don't have to split it. Now, my dad had to split it with me. Like my dad would charge, $500-$600 for a wedding reception, and he'd give me 200, he'd get 300, and we were both super happy. But we didn't have to split it so many ways, and it was a lot easier too than all the people involved. But I look back and you think about that, and you wonder, would my dad have rather had Friday and Saturday nights off and be able to just listen to the ball game or go to the Cardinals game or, have what have you? I don't know, because my dad and I are very much alike, where we like to be doing things. Like I love doing the podcast. If I didn't have the podcast, I don't know what I would do. I'll be honest. I don't know what I would do because it's an outlet for me. It's my fun stuff. Like I love getting to get the mic out, getting to get the mixer out, getting to talk to you guys, getting to edit. I love the feedback loop that we have, the conversations that we have. And I know that like this show went out to John out in Massachusetts, and it went out to Cincinnati to Jody. It went down to South Florida to Michelle. That still blows me away. This is so cool to be able to engage like this. And I'm sure my dad, since he's a musician, he probably enjoyed playing every Saturday night, every Friday night at Meadow Park Steakhouse. However, at the same time, I know he did that out of love for the family so that we could have things we probably couldn't have afforded otherwise. So I think you reflect on that when you get a little bit older, where I am right now, which I think is kind of interesting to do. And even if your mom was like somebody who just sold Tupperware, or I know, Pam was a single parent for quite a while with Paige before we got together. And she would do like those Pampered Chef parties or candle parties or what have you. and she was an adjunct professor at the University of Missouri, St. Louis. She taught night classes as an instructor at the college, and she did that so that she could make enough to give Paige the best life she could have. And I think it is just really cool when parents, give 40 hours a week at their normal job. And my dad had a backbreaking job with concrete work. It was hard. When I think of that, I couldn't have done that. I couldn't do that for a day. My dad did it for 30 years. And then on top of that, to go a little bit further so the family could have some of the nicer things in life. And I'm sure that story's true of you too. So here's my question to you for next week. What were some of the odd jobs that maybe your parents or grandparents picked up over the years that were interesting to you that they did? And now reflecting back, they did it out of love. Maybe they did it because they had a passion for something. Maybe they were a woodworker or something like that. They're creative. But, part of it was because they did it out of love for your family so you could have a better way to go. I think it's a cool story. And I love to hear these things. So let me know. Patreon.com/BeOurGuestPodcast. And we'll share those on next week's show. All right. So it's time to get out of here. Got to take Mallory to the orthodontist, and I'm hanging in there with a headache. We'll make it through. So I appreciate you guys. Hope you have a great week, and hope you enjoy the coverage from Walt Disney World here in just about 48 hours. So you guys have an awesome week. I love you guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon. Thank you, Mike. All righty. I will see you later.